All right, good morning, gentlemen. Bob here, back once again, breaking down some Bitcoin. No time wasted, let's get right down to it. Bitcoin. So, of interest here, did manage to put in we wicked all the way down here 2 days ago, bought right up, wicked back down here, bought right back up. Ended up closing out the day. I think that we would have probably seen a little more upside potentially if we had closed the day at or above this level. But instead, you can see it actually closed down just below these levels, at both this one, and then obviously these ones. But even this one here, we closed in just below that. So you get the initial push to the upside, capped out right here, exactly where all these other wicks ended up. Downside incoming. I'm not sure. I really do think this could go one of two ways. I mean, this could very well be a upside parabola. I'd say, it's probably worthwhile to maybe redraw this line here. But the other side of this would be that we could actually have a downside parabola forming as well. And you can see where it makes sense both ways, right? So it's tough to say for sure, which route we're going here at this point. What I do know is that as of now, neither the Bulls nor the Bears have been willing to relinquish control or, give it, not even control. I mean, neither of them is in control at the moment. I mean, right here on the daily RSI, we're sitting at about a 46 level, which is neutral territory. Anything between 40 and 60 is neutral territory, so neither the Bulls nor the Bears are in control. And you can see, how obvious that is here in the way that the price action has worked out. And now all of a sudden we're getting some price compression over here. So somebody's about to win. I think that, I've been saying all along that I had pretty well operated under the assumption that what we would be looking at here was, from a weekly standpoint, we keep pushing to the upside, however slowly that may happen. But throughout the week, we would just, continue to push up. At this point, let's actually just go ahead and we'll jump straight over to the shorter term time frames. Let's actually bring up this hourly chart here. Oops. All right, so taking a look at the one, this is a chart I like to use for 1 and 4 hour purposes. I mean, you can see here that, we got these parabolas that I'd put in that are no longer holding water. And then we've maybe got this kind of larger, kind of rounded bottom that we might be able to work with here. But as of right now, I mean, I kind of marked this off two ways. I kind of looked at it and I said, all right, well, we've got two ways that this could go. We stay in the green pattern, the green section here, and that means that we're gonna, that to me suggested that we're gonna continue to work our way and at least, continue to put touches in on this line. And then if it breaks into the red, then my assumption is we're gonna come down here and test further down here. At this point, it's tough to say because. Again, nobody's really coming through as a winner just yet. I mean, even here, if Bitcoin could somehow manage to maintain this level for, 3 hours and change, this is a double bottom, a little 4-hour double bottom. I mean, maybe it even comes down to here. But you can see a series of successive lower or higher lows. The only issue is that we've got lower highs as well. So again, right now, as we're compressed in this, and you can see here, I mean, it's what. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 straight 4-hour candles, and this one's brand new. So let's call it 8 straight 4-hour candles that traded in between basically 29.9 and 30,700 ish. So basically 2 straight days we've traded within this very small range. Somebody's about to win, and I just don't know who for sure. I want to hold to the idea that we are going to see this week close in the green, and that it's going to close in a manner that maybe actually even surprises us a little bit. And I still think feasible to push up here into this like 30. I think that it's feasible to at least come back up here and retest this high, if not break through it next time. But the way that these moving averages are lined up here, it presents somewhat of a challenge to believe that that will happen. Not that it can't, but that it will, in that the 21 simple has now flipped into a resistance level, right? And you can see here now that we are back below the 200, and really we've just got some of the longer term moving averages right here holding us up. But again, you can see here how much time we spent right here at 30,000 over the last few days. There comes a time where one side or the other gets exhausted, right? And that's literally what it's called, is exhaustion. So do the buyers get exhausted first, or do the sellers get exhausted? Now, what I'd love to see is for this thing just to actually turn into a double bottom right here, go ahead and come back up the other side, retest this level, and then push up. If this thing turns into a double bottom, it should take us up to around this level, maybe here. Still doesn't put in a higher high than this one though. So I think, just kind of looking at it logically right this moment, it feels as though downside right now is the most likely outcome, at least for the time being. So as far as that part goes, that's kind of what I'm looking at the moment. Now you'll see here we do have a bullish divergence on the hourly. And again, if it can just hold this level, and now looking at the hourly chart, now we don't even necessarily need it to hold for 4 hours. We just need it to hold here for now. The other thing I'm looking at here would be the volume profile here. So, you'll notice that really in terms of buying and selling, you'll notice that the selling is seemingly outweighing the buying right now. So that would be the other thing. But at the same token, anytime you get these downside pushes where you get some good volume, this was a red candle, but this was a good indication that people were still buying right here, right? We had a lot of people buying here, a few less here, and now a few less here. So I do think that there could be a sign that buyers are getting exhausted here at this level. Do we see it break down? I think there's probably a strong chance of that, especially with the way you can see in the RSI down here how the RSI reacted to this line. And I always find it interesting because, again, like I said, 40 and 60 are the numbers you want to look for. If you get above 60 on the RSI, so look over here and you can see where the 60 level is. You get above that and it's technically bulls in control. But on Bitcoin, I have found, and it doesn't matter what time frame it is, but this 55, 56 level tends to be the level that dictates whether Bitcoin is going to make a bullish move or not. Hard rejection there at that level, and just at this point it's a straight it's just straight down, right? At the moment. Now, the question is, what's the level here? So look at the price there versus the RSI. Price here versus the RSI. RSI is actually lower than the price is in comparison to this at the moment. Not vastly, but comparatively speaking, it is lower. So I don't know. I think that this bullish divergence will be, obviously, those are positive, but unless it pushes up. And let's get to an even shorter term time frame. I think I like this chart better for whatever reason. I think that I feel as though it's maybe more valid, or I'm not sure how I feel about it, but I'm not like a massive fan of using Coinbase in their USD conversion because, keep in mind, the difference in price between USD and USDT on any given day can actually vary slightly. It might only be a fraction of a percent maybe, and right now, who knows, maybe it's actually closer to 1%, but there is some variance there. So I don't necessarily love to use this chart. And then in addition, it's just slightly different. But here you'll see that I've got two levels that I've been looking at that I consider fairly important. And I guess I got rid of the one. I'd add another yellow one down a little further. But yeah, I kept this one because this is really, like, even though it doesn't fall on a fib level, and I don't necessarily think it's a great indicator for hourly or 4-hour support, but you can see here that it does hold water, right? Like, price action will come up, test that level, and it has been testing it quite a bit. It's just tough to say. 15 minute, we're getting an oversold bounce right now. I mean, it fired off down here. And then, same idea as when we were looking at the volume on the other chart. Like, just kind of take a look here. This is a 15 minute. Here, the price was already pushing up. You got a huge spike in volume. That's a good indication that things are going to turn around, especially if the volume doesn't continue to come in, right? Like over here, a little different, where the volume started building. Price kind of started going sideways, volume dropped off, and then boom, volume starts picking up again. But I look at volume, and I try to look for the anomaly, right? This is an anomaly here, and when you look at the price action, you see here there was this wick, got bought right up. Now we came back down, retesting this level, but this is an indication that it may hold this level once again, that there are still enough buyers there to facilitate just kind of hanging out there, which is what we needed to do. If it doesn't hang out there again, we all of a sudden we start talking about these numbers down here again, and if not all the way down into kind of this range down here, 28.2, 26, 24. Again, if we continue to lose this, or if we don't continue to hold this level, I guess more specifically, then that's what we're looking at there. I've got lines all over this chart, as you can see, and none of them like perfectly lines up with the price action. Part of that's because of the time frame I'm looking at, but part of it's simply the fact that Bitcoin's just not really putting together like patterns per se at the moment, right? What we're getting here is a lot of price action. Like, I can get you a pattern on shorter term time frames right now, but again, if we look at this whole thing here, going back all the way to this section, I mean, your guess is as good as mine. What really the pattern is here, right? Like, I got that one chart where I've got this as a possible rounded bottom, factoring this out, figuring that was a kind of a bearish fake out. So maybe we've got a little bit of a rounded bottom, and this thing will in fact pop up this other side here soon. It's just tough to say. I mean, especially when you get this pop up here in the middle, and then subsequent lower high, subsequent lower high, subsequent lower high, subsequent lower high. Still just not a lower low. We haven't broken this level either. So again, this level, huge deal. This level, huge deal. We start to lose those levels, and again, then I'll be looking down here. And even really, I think if we break back down below this white line here, that in itself would be problematic. So, in holding to my thesis for the week that this thing is in fact going to give us some positive price action, I'm going to stick by that for now until Bitcoin proves to me that I'm just totally wrong here. And it may be doing that right now. I mean, again, high, basically a lower high, now a lower high than this one. And you can see how the reaction from the price reaction is here. Let's see, what's that 5 minute look like? Well, if it chops sideways a little bit more on this very short term time frame, if it chops sideways a little more, then what you could see here is kind of the idea that an inverse head and shoulder could be forming. So then maybe this thing chops for about another hour, 30 minutes, hour, and then this thing pops right back up into this region, recovers this level. That would be the most ideal scenario right now. I just, we'll see if it happens that way, but that would be the most ideal scenario if we're going to continue to maintain any kind of upward movement. Location of the moving averages tells me that this thing probably, we're probably going to end up coming down a little further. But again, hey, let's take a look. Now that we've been talking for a while now, we got the hourly chart still pulled up at the moment. Here's our level that we want to hold. Here's our bullish divergence. you close out an hourly candle right on top of this, and suddenly it at least has a chance to hold it. Only issue would be that, again, on the shorter term time frames, when it hit this level here, you saw a spike in volume, which could indicate a good reversal. The hourly would actually maybe suggest to you that a reversal is fairly unlikely, that it's actually still building volume to the downside. So that's where taking a look at all these different time frames is important, and kind of putting the whole picture together, right? Like, so I don't know, but I'm still sticking to my thesis. I've said it a few times this week. Bitcoin's trying to make a liar out of me, but again, I just have this belief that it's going to play out the way that I see it, even though right now it's looking rather precarious, because again, we just can't get through this level. So maybe this does end up being more of a scenario where we just kind of maybe end up more like this here, where maybe this candle does end up just being kind of, maybe we're even lucky just to get it to close right here, then we get a double bottom. I don't know. I still think it's much more likely that it does curve up, but again, the fact that we continue to test that level, and now all of a sudden with just a few minutes left to go in the hour, of course it falls below it. So if it falls below that level here in the next few minutes, then we can assume downside incoming, 29.8, 29.4, 29,000 even, 28.8. Let's take a look at the SPX and let's get this thing wrapped up here today. We've talked about it a little bit. We are starting to lose some level of correlation, but all in all, it still holds water. Again, just like everything else we've been talking about. So and then we talked about this. We talked about how this little formation here, bulls kept defending this level. Well, now all of a sudden, there we go. I talked about that yesterday. Came out of here, got a little bit of a break, stuffed back inside underneath here, and all of a sudden it is actually in fact beneath this level that the bulls had been defending. So assuming that the S&P or the traditional markets in general still hold some weight in terms of what's going to happen with Bitcoin movement, then I could reasonably assume that unless this thing double bottoms to start the day, which I can't really do that because of the lack of the 24-hour market cycle. So this candle is going to open either down or up. Let's see, the S&P. It's actually set to basically open right here. So that could be ultimately double bottom, pop back up and over again. Or this thing is preparing to come on down and retest these lower levels that I had kind of been looking for previously. I do think that there's some feasibility that based on the hourly chart and the fact that you've got the moving averages coming in here, we still got the 100 that could cross the 200. So I think there's some feasibility and some arguments to be made that we might be able to get one more little push out of this, but that it probably still comes up here, taps out. Let's see. Yeah, the 4 hour, you can see here that a downtrend is in fact starting, even though it's not showing up that well on the price action yet, but you can see where a little bit of a downtrend can be coming into play here. If I was to draw a line across the top, you can see that in fact, lower high right here, not a lower low per se, so still feasible that it could be. We can still get an upside move out of it, but it just doesn't look that way. You could almost say that this is a bit of a rounded top, and I could put let's see. You could even see here if I did that, it would be a pretty closely matched that right there, and would be like, oh, yep, okay, this could be very well be some downside coming. So, I'd say at least based on the 4 hour, the one positive is that the 21 simple is finally coming into the space here, and as long as it can find support right on that level, it's feasible that the 21 just continues to push it up. So again, I mean, it's no different than Bitcoin. I mean, we got two scenarios that we could look at here. I still think the most likely one is pulling back down into this area. All right, probably the more likely scenario. But at the same token, I mean, it's made progress. It's made progress. You know, we're maybe okay. Yeah, kind of forming a little bit of a pattern in and of itself here. You know, green, two reds, green, two reds, green, two reds. Potentially followed by another green, maybe, but we'll see. We'll see. But again, as I've been saying, really, I've been expecting it to pull back from this level for several days now. Let's take a look weekly, real briefly, just to kind of see exactly what's going on there. You know, this is actually, yeah. So here would be what I'd say to you guys: as long as Bitcoin can manage to hold this level for the close of the week, I think it actually puts us in pretty decent shape. I mean, not right here, but you can see where the 100 simple is. It's right about there. So if the S&P can hold about 40, 80-ish, that still gives it support of the 100. 21 is coming down. It's going to cross the 80 here, and once that cross takes place, it could potentially act like a magnet. I mean, I mean, there's still some validity here. I mean, that we could see something more positive, but I don't know. Again, I just, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. I don't, you know, the few positive signs and a few things that I would suggest, you know, are maybe not showing up great. Like this, again, this is a total topping pattern right here, right? Here's a high. Higher high, the high that matches this one, possible head and shoulder. If this played out like a head and shoulder, even though it doesn't necessarily look like one, if it played out that way, then measured move probably puts it back down into, you know, somewhere in this range or this range, which again, here's the daily 21. We kind of talked about this where, you know, it's supporting the current price action, but it's not pushing it up. Because, again, the chances are pretty good the price action needs to come back down and test it. I think that maybe this kind of sideways action is what is allowing the 21 to at least stabilize a little bit. And then eventually, if the price stays up there, it will start to curl up. So, you know, really, I guess, even though I think that a downside move to here or even here would be ideal, again, if it just continues to stay within this boundary, the 21 will eventually come up and potentially save the day. So,